Hello! This is just going to be a video about how I take photos for Bookstagram. So the first couple things that I need are daylight or natural light, a book, and I guess a background and also props. So the first step is to select the book and look at the front cover for color information. Because I want to pair the book with a background that will look good with the colors of the book itself. So this book was Swamplandia by Karen Russell, and the cover is primarily white, red, and green. So I have backgrounds that are like nice quality paper of different colors and felt. This is actually stuff that Matt bought for some product photography, and now I get to use it, which is super cool. And he bought it at a craft store. So for this book, I picked out a dark orange felt and a cold gray textured paper. And that's to really go with the red of the alligator's mouth, and the gray is to kind of contrast with it, and to match the tone of the green in the plants on the cover, and the orange is to give kind of a pop compared to the gray to kind of mimic what the red is doing. I accidentally picked kind of exactly the same background setup as one of the more recent photos that I posted on Bookstagram, so whoops. And then I pick out my props. So here I have a book that I actually bound myself, which is pretty cool, that has kind of like that botanical look, that the cover with the plants on the cover, it kind of mimics it a little bit. So I picked this out. I pretty much need to have read the book for the style of Bookstagram posts that I do, because I need to have a really good idea of the visual elements in the book and plot points in order to pick the props accordingly. So here I also picked a mug that I have that has a alligator on it. It's from Florida, and this book is set in Florida in a I guess like alligator type amusement park setting. And here I didn't have anything jewelry wise that was like a crow or like a darker bird, but I do have this earring, and this is another element from the book's plot to have kind of like a feather. So I think jewelry is a really good place to pull props, because not everybody has like a bunch of knickknacks, but I think a lot of people do have jewelry and like clothing elements that they could use. And here I have some dried old plants. This was from a bouquet from quite a while ago. I also have some dried flowers from the same bouquet, because they kind of add a little bit of punch and a bit more softness and nature to the shoot. It's good to add texture to these photos. So here I have like the texture of the felt versus the texture of the paper, and then the glossiness of the book and the glossiness of the mug, and then the feather. So it's all trying to balance these things out, these elements, and also get some elements that reflect the plot of the story itself. And it all trying to get it to go well together. A good way to add more color interest or texture is to have fabric samples. So I actually have a bunch of like textile samples. These I think came with like a curtain or something type of thing. I don't know. I got it for free. And so you can use something like a little patch of fabric to help punch up the texture and the color of a photo. I actually you want to play around with like different compositions and everything. But I think my first composition was the strongest in this case, and it was the photo that I chose to actually post. And ideally, I would change up like the whole background, go with like a different color palette, really try out a bunch of things. But sometimes it just works out best with the first instinct, and that's how it went in this case. I think there are a few things that I could have done to make these later photos better. So you kind of want to have things on a similar plane so that most of your stuff is in focus. At least that's how I usually like to do it. So if I had that book that I bound myself underneath this book, then it would pop it back up so that the mug wasn't so far away. Another thing to note about this is that the lighting was kind of dull. It was overcast, and also it's a little bit of harsh shadows coming in from the window. So you can adjust with like reflector type things or different areas to try to get the shadows to be better, and also change the position of the book versus the window and all that. But in this case, I wasn't too concerned about it. I brought the shadows, or I brightened the shadows in like post processing, so it helps too. And then I brought in this little dog toy, which I think you can just tell it doesn't work. Here is the final picture that I posted on Instagram, and here are some of the other compositions that I did not choose. For kind of obvious reasons. So now I just want to talk about some of these other photos that I've composed in the past and kind of the symbolic stuff in them. So for this clockwork orange photo, there is a clock and an orange for the clockwork orange. That itself is a symbol that I don't really want to get into right now. And then I also have these red leaves, which are supposed to represent blood and all of the violence. The matches also represent kind of the violence and destruction in this book. And then there are some kind of, I guess just for aesthetics, really, the flowers, they look really nice. They really compose the photo. So those don't have any really symbolic meaning, except for maybe a contrast to the violence, but also like a nature element. I guess, I don't know if that really makes sense. And then I also have a little glass of milk in like a really cute, in my opinion, jar. For the Moloko Plus thing. So that's what all of these symbolize in this picture. And then they're also there for kind of like composing and going around and trying to keep things interesting texturally and also color-wise. So that's the choices behind this photo. And here I have one of my other favorites. It's Where'd You Go, Bernadette? And here I have some elements from the story as well. So the penguins are because there's a trip to the Antarctic, I'm pretty sure. I hope I'm not wrong. Is it the Arctic? And then there's, up in the little corner, up at the top, there's a Microsoft because her husband works at Microsoft, and that's kind of important. And then I have some of these blackberries because that's also an important element in the story, is a giant overrun blackberry vine. Then something that's kind of just in the background as texture is a scarf, but it also represents her own personal fashion, something that's kind of important but not so much. And then I also have this little Russian doll because there's some Russian influence. I think that's all I have besides the bright layers of yellow in the background. And again, they give different textural and color impacts. So that's this photo. And then there's another style of photo that I've taken, and it's kind of a more minimalist approach. So for blindness, one of the key elements of the plot is that people have lost sight. So I decided not to put any props and just have this gray background for the stranger. I didn't really have that many props that suited this story except for a cup of coffee. And I really thought that the tile in my bathroom would look cool with this cover. So I have the coffee as the only prop, and then the background as like the main interest element for this book. So I chose a similar approach with the next book that I picked, which was Snow Crash. I don't have that many props that can go with this book, with the plot of this book. If I had like a little tech deck or something like that, maybe I would have chosen a more prop-based photo. But I decided just to pair this book with these DVDs. These are old blank DVDs that I just had for an art project, actually. So I decided to put them as the background. And so this is some footage of me laying out these DVDs. I tried to use a yellow felt background, but I didn't think it looked very good in the end. I wanted to play with the yellow and also the blue tones in the cover, but I found that the wooden floor actually worked better with the kind of yellower brown tones in the cover. And I found that the colors in the DVDs themselves actually went really well with the colors in the center of the book cover. So this is the final photo. I played around with different composition of the book placement and also different organization of the DVDs themselves, and this is what I came up with. So that's basically how I take my Bookstagram photos, and yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. I fell off of Bookstagram, like I wasn't active on it for a couple months, and now I'm trying to get back into things. It has been a little bit difficult because I do only take pictures of books that I have read, so I'm trying to actually read more of my books that I own copies of rather than only library rentals. So, all right, I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Bye.